The arrival. The gleaming spires of Galactic Peacekeeping Force headquarters pierced the amber sky of Centauri Prime, their iridescent surfaces reflecting the light of twin suns. At the base of the tallest tower, a lone human figure stood, dwarfed by the massive structure and the stream of alien beings flowing around him. Jack Harper swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously as he clutched his duffel bag. At 22, he was the youngest human ever accepted into the GPF, and the weight of that responsibility pressed down on him like a physical force. He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and strode towards the entrance. The lobby was a cacophony of alien languages and the soft whir of antigraph platforms. Jack's eyes darted from one strange being to another. Tentacled Sarthul, crystalline lumini, the gaseous forms of nebulons contained in environment suits. He felt like a child on his first day of school, overwhelmed and out of place. A hovering drone approached, its single eye swiveling to focus on Jack. Species: human. Name: Jack Harper. Proceed to Orientation Chamber 17B. It intoned in a metallic voice before zooming away to greet the next arrival. Jack made his way through winding corridors, trying to ignore the curious and sometimes hostile stares from alien recruits. He found Chamber 17B and stepped inside, where a handful of other beings were already seated. A tall, willowy creature with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms stood at the front of the room. Greetings, new recruits. I am Commander Zilvax of the Andromeda Cluster. Welcome to the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. As Zilvax began outlining the training program, Jack felt a sharp jab in his ribs. He turned to see a Vraxian, its leathery skin a mottled green, leering at him with needle-like teeth. "Hey, soft skin," the Vraxian hissed. "I think you took a wrong turn. The petting zoo is that way." Jack clenched his jaw, but said nothing, focusing on the commander's words. He'd been warned about the prejudice he might face, but the reality of it still stung. After orientation, the recruits were led to their quarters. Jack found himself sharing a room with a Lumini named Crystal and a burly Tauran called Grok. As he stowed his gear, he could feel their eyes on him. "So," Crystal's voice chimed like tinkling glass, "you're the human everyone's been talking about. Didn't expect you to be so squishy." Grok snorted, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Humans, barely out of their gravity well, and they think they can play with the big boys. This ought to be entertaining." Jack took a deep breath, reminding himself why he was here. "I'm not here to entertain anyone," he said quietly. "I'm here to serve, same as you." The next morning, training began in earnest. The recruits gathered in a massive holographic simulation chamber for their first combat exercise. Commander Zilvax's voice echoed through the room. "Today's scenario: hostage rescue on a Class M planet. You'll be divided into teams. Objective: neutralize the hostiles and secure the hostages with minimal collateral damage." Jack found himself on a team with Crystal, Grok, and the Vraxian from Orientation, who introduced himself as Zix. As the simulation shimmered to life around them, transforming the chamber into a dense alien jungle, Jack could feel the other's skepticism radiating towards him. "Try not to get us all killed, soft skin," Zix sneered, hefting a plasma rifle. The team moved through the holographic foliage, senses alert for any sign of the hostiles. Jack's heart raced, but he forced himself to remain calm, drawing on his training back on Earth. Suddenly, a barrage of energy bolts erupted from the undergrowth. Zix went down with a howl of pain, his legs scorched by a near miss. Crystal's crystalline form refracted the incoming fire, but she was pinned down behind a fallen log. Grok, suppressing fire. "Crystal, can you flank left?" Jack called out, his tactical training kicking in. "I'll draw their attention." Before the others could respond, Jack was moving. He sprinted across the clearing, dodging bolts with a speed and agility that seemed to surprise even himself. The hostiles, caught off guard by the reckless maneuver, focused their fire on him. Using the distraction, Grok unleashed a barrage from his heavy weapon, while Crystal slipped around to the enemy's flank. In a matter of moments, the skirmish was over. As the holograms faded, Jack helped Zix to his feet. The Vraxian's expression was a mix of pain and begrudging respect. "Not bad, human," he grunted. "Maybe you're not completely useless after all." Over the next few weeks, Jack threw himself into training with a fervor that surprised his alien compatriots. While he lacked the natural advantages of many species, Lumini energy manipulation, Vraxian acid spit, Tauran super strength, he compensated with quick thinking and adaptability. In Zerog exercises, Jack's experience with Earth's varying gravity conditions gave him an edge. During diplomatic simulations, his ability to read body language across species proved invaluable. Slowly, grudgingly, his teammates began to see him as more than just the token human. One evening, as Jack sat alone in the mess hall, he overheard a conversation at a nearby table. "Did you see the human in marksmanship today?" A nebulon whispered, its gaseous form swirling excitedly. "He outscored half the Vraxians." "Beginner's luck," another voice scoffed. "Wait until the real challenges begin. Humans are too fragile, too emotional. They'll crack under pressure." Jack's grip tightened on his utensil, but he forced himself to remain calm. He proved them wrong, not with words, but with actions. The true test came sooner than anyone expected. 3 months into training, alarms blared throughout the station. Recruits scrambled to assembly points as Commander Zilvax's voice rang out over the comms. "This is not a drill. We've received a distress call from the Omega Centauri cluster. A Krelax warship has breached the neutral zone and is attacking a civilian research outpost. All senior officers are engaged elsewhere. We're deploying a team of recruits." Jack's heart raced as he joined the others in the hangar bay. This was it, a real mission, with lives on the line. As they boarded the sleek interceptor, he caught Zix giving him a worried glance. "Hope you're ready for this, soft skin," the Vraxian muttered. "Krelax don't take prisoners." The journey to Omega Centauri was tense. Jack studied the mission briefing, his mind racing through possible scenarios. The Krelax were notorious for their brutality and advanced weaponry. This wasn't going to be like any training simulation. As they dropped out of hyperspace, the scene that greeted them was chaos. The research outpost, a delicate structure of interconnected pods, was already showing signs of damage. The Krelax warship loomed nearby, its organic, tentacle-like appendages lashing out to tear into the station's hull. By the cosmic core, Crystal breathed, her crystalline form shimmer. "Aim with anxiety. Look at the size of that thing." Commander Zilvax's voice crackled over the comm. "Team, your priority is evacuating the researchers. We'll try to draw the Krelax's fire, but you'll be largely on your own once you're inside. Good luck." As their shuttle approached the ravaged station, Jack's mind raced. Standard tactics wouldn't work here. They needed something unexpected. "Wait," he said, an idea forming. "The Krelax ship, it's organic, right? Living tissue." Grok nodded, his bovine features creased with confusion. "Yeah. So, Jack continued, excitement building. "It might be vulnerable to extreme temperature changes. If we can get close enough, maybe we can use the station's thermal regulators to hit it with alternating blasts of heat and cold. It could disorient the ship long enough for us to evacuate the researchers and escape." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Zix let out a barking laugh. "Cosmic core, the human's crazier than a solar flare surfer, but it just might work." As they docked with the station, alarms blaring and smoke filling the corridors, Jack felt a surge of determination. He might be just one human in a vast alien galaxy, but he was here to make a difference. And no matter what came next, he was ready to face it head-on. The challenge. The acrid smell of burning circuitry filled Jack's nostrils as he and his team raced through the flickering corridors of the research station. Sparks rained down from damaged conduits, and the entire structure groaned under the assault of the Krelax warship. Life signs detected in Science Lab 3, Crystal announced, her crystalline form pulsing with each scan, approximately 20 meters ahead. As they approached the lab, a thunderous impact shook the station. Jack stumbled, catching himself against a wall as Grok steadied Zix. "We're running out of time," the fraction hissed. "This place is going to tear apart any minute." Jack's mind raced. They needed to evacuate the researchers, but they also had to buy time to implement his plan to disorient the Krelax ship. "Crystal, Grok, get to the lab and start evacuating the researchers. Zix, you're with me. We're heading to environmental control." For a moment, it looked like Zix might argue, but another violent shudder of the station silenced any protest. The team split up, with Jack and Zix sprinting towards the heart of the station. As they ran, Jack couldn't help but notice the grudging respect in Zix's eyes. It was a far cry from the contempt he'd shown during their first days of training. "You know, soft skin," Zix panted as they rounded a corner. "For a species that's barely mastered interstellar travel, you've got quad stems." Jack managed a grim smile. "Thanks, I think." They reached the environmental control room, a circular chamber filled with holographic displays and pulsing energy conduits. Jack's fingers flew over the alien controls, his training kicking in as he accessed the station's thermal regulators. "Zix, I need you to reroute power from non-essential systems. We're going to need everything we've got for this to work." The Vraxian nodded, acid dripping from his fangs, as he concentrated on the task. Outside, through the reinforced viewport, they could see the massive form of the Krelax ship, its tendrils still tearing into the station's hull. "Ready?" Zix announced. "What's the plan, human?" Jack took a deep breath. "We're going to hit that thing with alternating blasts of extreme heat and cold. If I'm right, it should cause the organic components to contract and expand rapidly, hopefully disorienting the ship's neural network." Zix's eyes widened. "That's actually brilliant. And completely insane. Let's do it." With a nod, Jack initiated the sequence. The station's thermal regulators, never designed for such an application, groaned under the strain. A beam of intense heat lanced out, striking the Krelax ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the massive vessel began to writhe. "It's working," Jack exclaimed. "Quick, switch to cold." They alternated the beams, watching as the organic ship thrashed in apparent agony. Its attacks on the station became erratic, unfocused. Jack's comm crackled to life. "Harper, Zix, it was Crystal. We've got the researchers, but we're cut off from the evacuation point. We need an alternate route." Jack's mind raced, calling up the station schematics he'd studied. "There's a maintenance tunnel 2 levels down. It'll be tight, but it should get you to the docking bay." He quickly relayed the directions. "Understood," Crystal replied. "But hurry. This place is falling apart." As if to emphasize her point, a series of explosions rocked the station. Warning klaxons blared as the computer announced, "Hull breach detected. Emergency protocols activated." Jack and Zix shared a look of grim determination. "We need to buy them more time," Jack said. Zix nodded, a feral grin spreading across his face. "Then let's give this overgrown space squid a real headache." They pushed the thermal regulators to their limits, ignoring the warnings of imminent system failure. Outside, the Krelax ship's movements became increasingly erratic. Suddenly, it released its hold on the station, drifting away as if stunned. "It worked," Jack exclaimed, allowing himself a moment of elation. But their victory was short-lived. The damage to the station was too severe. As they made their way to the evacuation point, entire sections were sealed off by emergency bulkheads. They reached the docking bay just as Crystal and Grok arrived with the last of the researchers. The rescued scientists, a diverse group of aliens, looked at Jack with a mixture of curiosity and gratitude. "Everyone on board now," Jack shouted as he helped a limping Lumini researcher into the shuttle. As the last evacuee cleared the airlock, a massive tremor shook the station. Jack looked back to see a sheet of metal tearing free from the ceiling, hurtling towards an oblivious Grok. Without thinking, Jack launched himself at the Tauren, tackling him out of harm's way. The metal crashed down where Grok had been standing moments before. Grok stared at Jack in disbelief. You saved me." "That's what teammates do," Jack replied, helping the massive alien to his feet. "Now let's get out of here." They piled into the shuttle, disengaging from the dying station, just as another explosion tore through its core. As they accelerated away, Jack watched through the viewport as the place that had been their home for months collapsed in on itself. The Krelak ship, still disoriented, made no move to pursue them. As they rendezvoused with the GPF support vessels that had finally arrived, a cheer went up from the rescued researchers. In the aftermath of the mission, as they debriefed back at headquarters, Jack found himself the center of attention. The researchers he helped save wanted to shake his hand, marveling at the ingenuity of his plan. Even Commander Zilvax seemed impressed. "Recruit Harper," the willowy alien said, all four arms clasped behind their back. "Your unorthodox tactics and quick thinking saved a lot of lives today. Well done." Jack felt a surge of pride, but it was tempered by the weight of responsibility. They'd succeeded, but it had been close. Too close. As the team left the debriefing room, Zix fell into step beside Jack. The Vraxian was uncharacteristically quiet for a moment before speaking. "Listen, Soft. Harper. I owe you an apology. I thought humans were too weak, too primitive to cut it out here. But today you proved me wrong." Jack smiled, extending his hand. After a moment's hesitation, Zix grasped it with his clawed appendage. "We're all in this together, Zix. Human, Vraxian, doesn't matter. We're GPF." The next few weeks saw a shift in the dynamic of the training group. Jack was no longer the outsider, the curiosity. His fellow recruits sought him out for advice, eager to learn about the adaptability and out-of-the-box thinking the humans seemed to possess. But with his newfound respect came new challenges. Some of the other species, particularly those with natural advantages like enhanced strength or psychic abilities, seemed threatened by the human success. One day, during a particularly grueling combat simulation, Jack found himself facing off against a Kronan recruit named Vexilor. The rhinoceros-like alien towered over Jack, his thick hide impervious to most conventional weapons. As they circled each other in the holographic arena, Vexilor sneered, "Let's see how well your tricks work against real strength, human." The Kronan charged, his horn lowered like a battering ram. Jack waited until the last possible moment before dodging, using Vexilor's momentum against him. The massive alien crashed into a holographic boulder, momentarily stunned. Jack seized the opportunity, vaulting onto Vexilor's back and applying pressure to specific nerve points he'd studied in xenobiology. The Kronan's legs buckled, and he crashed to the ground, immobilized. The simulation ended, and Jack offered a hand to help Vexilor up. The Kronan stared at him in disbelief. How did you do that?" Jack shrugged. "You're stronger than me. Probably always will be. But strength isn't everything. Humans had to learn to use our brains to survive." Vexilor nodded slowly, a newfound respect in his eyes. Perhaps there is more to learn from your species than I thought." As word of Jack's exploits spread, he found himself under increasing scrutiny. Senior officers watched his progress with keen interest, and rumors began to circulate about a special assignment in the works. One evening, as Jack sat in the recreation area, absently manipulating a holographic puzzle, Commander Zilvax approached. "Recruit Harper," the commander said, their voice low. "Walk with me." As they strolled through the quiet corridors of the station, Zilvax spoke. "Your performance has not gone unnoticed, Harper. The Galactic Council is intrigued by the potential of humanity." Jack felt a mix of pride and apprehension. "Sir." Zilvax's four arms moved in a complex gesture that Jack had learned indicated deep thought. There is a situation developing in the outer rim, a potential threat that could destabilize the entire sector. We're assembling a team for a covert operation, and your name has been put forward. Jack's heart raced. This was it, a chance to truly prove himself, to show what humanity could offer to the galactic community. But the gravity of the situation wasn't lost on him. What kind of threat are we talking about, sir? Zilvax's normally impassive face showed a flicker of concern. We're not entirely sure. Our long-range sensors have detected anomalous energy readings, patterns that don't match any known species or natural phenomenon. Whatever it is, it's powerful, and it's getting closer. The commander fixed Jack with all four of their eyes. This mission will be dangerous, Harper, possibly more dangerous than anything you've faced so far. You don't have to accept. Jack stood straighter, his jaw set with determination. With all due respect, sir, this is why I joined the GPF. To make a difference, to face the unknown. I'm in. Zilvax nodded, a hint of what might have been pride in their alien features. Very well. Report to Briefing Room Alpha at 600 hours. And Harper, prepare yourself. Where you're going, you'll need every ounce of that human ingenuity. As Jack walked back to his quarters, his mind raced with possibilities. He knew that whatever lay ahead would push him to his limits and beyond. But he also knew that he wasn't alone. He had his team, a group forged in the crucible of shared challenges and mutual respect. Human, Vraxian, Lumini, Tauren. Together, they represented the best that Galaxy had to offer. And whatever threat awaited them in the outer rim, Jack was determined to face it head-on. Little did he know that the true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was about to begin. The crisis. The briefing room was unusually quiet as Jack entered, the tension palpable among the gathered officers and specialists. He took his seat next to Zix, noticing the grim expressions on the faces of his teammates. Commander Zilvax stood at the head of the room, their normally fluid movements stiff with concern. Thank you all for coming. What I'm about to share is classified at the highest level. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing a swirling mass of energy at the edge of charted space. 3 cycles ago, our deep space probes detected this anomaly in the outer rim. At first, we believed it to be a natural phenomenon, perhaps a new type of spatial rift. The image zoomed in, revealing intricate patterns within the energy field. However, recent analysis has revealed something far more troubling. These energy signatures bear similarities to ancient precursor technology. A murmur ran through the room. The precursors were a mythical race, said to have seeded the galaxy with life eons ago before mysteriously vanishing. Their technology was the stuff of legends, sought after by every spacefaring race. If this is indeed precursor tech, Zilvax continued, it represents both an unprecedented opportunity and a grave threat. In the wrong hands, such power could destabilize the entire galaxy. Jack leaned forward, his mind racing. Commander, what exactly are we dealing with here? A weapon? A portal? Zilvax's 4 arms moved in a gesture of uncertainty. We're not sure, Harper. That's why we've assembled this team. Your mission is to investigate the anomaly, determine its nature and potential threat level, and if possible, secure it for the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. The commander's gaze swept the room. Make no mistake, this is likely a one-way trip. We have no idea what you'll encounter out there. If any of you wish to withdraw, now is the time. Jack looked around at his teammates. Zix, mandibles clicking with nervous energy. Crystal, her crystalline form shimmering with determination. Grok, massive fists clenched in readiness. And a new addition, Vexlor, the Cronin he had bested in training, now an ally. No one moved. No one spoke. Their silence was all the answer Zilvax needed. Very well, the commander said. You depart in 3 hours. May the cosmic core guide you. As they prepared for the mission, Jack couldn't shake a feeling of unease. This was beyond anything they had trained for, beyond anything humanity had ever faced. But as he looked at his diverse team, he felt a surge of confidence. Together, they represented the best the galaxy had to offer. The experimental ship they boarded was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Sleek and organic, it seemed to pulse with its own life force. Prototype, Crystal explained, running a crystalline hand along the hull. Designed to withstand extreme spatial distortions, they say it can think for itself. As they strapped in for launch, Zix turned to Jack. "So, soft skin, got any clever human tricks for dealing with ancient, potentially universe-ending technology?" Jack managed a grim smile. "Just one. Don't touch anything that glows." Their journey to the outer rim was tense, filled with speculation about what they might find. As they approached the coordinates of the anomaly, the ship's systems began to fluctuate. "Energy readings are off the charts," Crystal reported, her form pulsing rapidly. "Whatever's out there, it's big." Suddenly, the view screen lit up with a blinding flash. When Jack's vision cleared, he gasped. Before them stretched a massive structure, a swirling vortex of energy contained within a lattice of impossible geometry. "By the cosmic core," Grok rumbled. "It's beautiful." As they watched, tendrils of energy reached out from the structure, enveloping their ship. Alarms blared as systems went haywire. "We're being pulled in," Vexlor shouted, his massive form straining against the restraints. Jack's mind raced. "Crystal, can you interface with the ship? Try to match our energy signature to the anomaly." The Lumini nodded, her crystalline body glowing as she connected with the ship's systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the alarms quieted. The violent shaking subsided. "It's working," Crystal said, her voice strained. "But I don't know how long I can maintain it." "Long enough," Jack replied. "Take us in." As they penetrated the energy field, reality itself seemed to warp around them. Jack felt his consciousness expanding, touching minds and memories not his own. He saw flashes of ancient civilizations, of wars fought with weapons that could shatter planets, of a race so advanced they had transcended physical form. With a jolt, they emerged into a vast chamber. Surrounding them were structures that defied description, pulsing with otherworldly energy. And at the center, "No," Zix whispered. "It can't be." A massive being floated before them, its form constantly shifting between states of matter. It radiated power beyond anything Jack had ever encountered. "Welcome, children of the younger races," a voice echoed in their minds. "We have awaited your arrival for eons." Jack swallowed hard, finding his voice. "Who? What are you?" The being's form coalesced into something vaguely humanoid. "We are the last of those you call precursors. We are the guardians of the cosmic core, the source of all life in this galaxy." "But the precursors vanished millennia ago," Vexlor protested. "We did not vanish," the being corrected. "We ascended. We have watched and waited, guiding the evolution of countless species from afar. And now, at last, you have proven yourselves worthy of the next step." Jack's head spun with the implications. "Next step? What do you mean?" The Guardian's form rippled. "The galaxy stands on the brink of a great crisis. An ancient evil stirs in the dark between stars, threatening all life. We cannot interfere directly, bound as we are to the cosmic core, but we can offer you the tools to face this threat." Images flashed through Jack's mind. A darkness spreading across the galaxy, consuming worlds. Civilizations falling before an unstoppable tide of destruction. "This is why you brought us here?" Crystal asked, her voice trembling. "To fight this darkness." "To give you a choice," the Guardian replied. "Accept our gift, and with it the responsibility to shepherd the younger races, or refuse, and face the coming storm alone." Jack looked at his teammates, seeing the same mix of awe and fear he felt reflected in their alien faces. "What exactly is this gift?" The Guardian's form expanded. enveloping them in tendrils of pure energy. The power of the precursors, the ability to shape reality itself. But beware, such power comes at a great cost. It will change you in ways you cannot imagine. Jack felt the energy pulsing around him, offering unimaginable power. For a moment, he was tempted. With such abilities, he could protect Earth, ensure humanity's place among the stars. But then he thought of the lessons he learned since joining the GPF, the strength that came from diversity, from different species working together, the power of ingenuity and adaptability. "No," he said firmly, surprising even himself. "We didn't come this far to become gods. We came to protect our galaxy as we are." The Guardian's form pulsed with what might have been approval. "A wise choice, young one. Perhaps there is hope for the younger races after all." The energy receded, coalescing into a small, pulsing orb. "Take this. It contains knowledge. Star charts marking the path of the coming darkness, and the location of precursor outposts that may aid you. Use it wisely." As Jack reached out to take the orb, a violent tremor shook the chamber. Alarms blared from their ship. "Multiple contacts," Crystal shouted. "Energy signatures unlike anything I've ever seen." The Guardian's form flickered. "They have found us. The harbingers of the darkness. You must go now. Warn your people. Prepare them for what is to come." As reality warped around them once more, Jack caught a glimpse of something massive and terrible entering the chamber. Tentacles of pure darkness, writhing with malevolent intelligence. They emerged from the anomaly with a jolt, their ship's systems screaming in protest. Behind them, the swirling vortex collapsed in on itself, leaving no trace of the wonders and horrors they had witnessed. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of what they had learned, of the responsibility now resting on their shoulders, was almost overwhelming. Finally, Zix broke the silence. "So, soft skin," the Vraxian said, his usual sarcasm tempered by awe. "Still think you made the right choice back there? We could have had the power of gods." Jack looked at the pulsing orb in his hands, then at his teammates. "Gods don't win wars," he said quietly. "People do. Together." As they set course for GPF headquarters, each lost in their own thoughts, Jack knew that nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy was about to face its greatest threat, and somehow, improbably, humanity had found itself at the center of the coming storm. But as he looked at his team, Vraxian, Lumini, Tauren, Cronin, and Human, he felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced challenges before and emerged stronger. Whatever this darkness was, whatever horrors awaited them, they would face it together. The real battle, Jack knew, was just beginning. And humanity, along with all the diverse species of the galaxy, would need every ounce of ingenuity, courage, and unity they could muster to survive what was coming. As the stars streaked by outside the view screen, Jack made a silent vow. He would not let the precursors' faith in them be in vain. He would not let the galaxy fall. Whatever it took, whatever sacrifices had to be made, they would find a way. The crisis was upon them. And Jack Harper, once a rookie human in a vast alien galaxy, now found himself at the forefront of a war for the very future of all life. The revelation. The return journey to GPF headquarters was fraught with tension. Jack sat in the cockpit, the precursor orb pulsing gently in his hands, its otherworldly glow casting strange shadows across his face. The weight of their discovery pressed down on the entire team, each lost in their own thoughts about the impending crisis. As they approached the familiar spires of Centauri Prime, Crystal broke the silence. "How do we even begin to explain this? Will they believe us?" Zix chittered nervously. "Believe us? We barely believe it ourselves. Ancient cosmic horrors. Precursor tech. We'll be lucky if they don't throw us in the brig for space madness." "They'll believe us," Jack said firmly, his eyes never leaving the orb. "They have to." The debriefing lasted for hours. Commander Zilvax and a panel of high-ranking officials from various species listened in stunned silence as the team recounted their encounter. When Jack produced the precursor orb, the room erupted into chaos. "Impossible," a Tauren general bellowed. "The precursors are a myth, a fairy tale told to hatchlings." A Lumini scientist reached out towards the orb, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement. "The energy readings are off the charts, if this is genuine." "If?" Vexlor snorted. "We saw it with our own eyes. The Guardian, the Vortex, the darkness." Commander Zilvax raised all four arms, calling for silence. "Regardless of its origin, this orb clearly contains data of immense importance. We need to analyze it immediately." As the orb was whisked away for study, Jack felt a sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Days turned into weeks as the GPF's best minds worked to decipher the precursor data. Jack and his team were kept in a state of high alert, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The waiting was almost worse than the danger they had faced. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they were summoned back to the briefing room. Commander Zilvax looked haggard, all four eyes sunken with exhaustion. "What we've discovered," the commander began, "is worse than we could have imagined. The darkness you encountered is not just a threat to our galaxy. It's a multidimensional entity that consumes entire universes." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a map of the galaxy. Dark tendrils crept across the stars, consuming everything in their path. According to the precursor data, this entity has already devoured countless realities. Our universe is next on its list. We have perhaps a standard solar year before it fully manifests in our dimension. The room was silent, the weight of this revelation crushing down on everyone present. Jack leaned forward, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "There has to be a way to stop it. The precursors wouldn't have left us this information if there wasn't hope." Zilvax nodded. "There is a way, but it's unprecedented. The data speaks of a weapon, a device capable of sealing the breaches between dimensions. But to construct it, we'll need resources and cooperation on a galactic scale." "That's impossible," Grok rumbled. "Half the species in the galaxy can barely tolerate each other. How are we supposed to unite them all?" Jack stood, his eyes blazing with determination. "We show them the truth. We make them understand that our differences mean nothing in the face of extinction. Human, Vraxian, Lumini. None of that matters if there's no galaxy left to call home." The commander studied Jack for a long moment. "You're right, of course. And that's why we're sending your team on a diplomatic mission. You've seen the threat firsthand. You'll be our envoys to the far corners of the galaxy, rallying support and gathering the resources we need." As they left the briefing room, Jack felt the eyes of his teammates on him. He had become their de facto leader, a position he had never sought, but now embraced fully. "So, soft skin," Six said, falling into step beside him. "Ready to save the universe?" Jack managed a grim smile. "One planet at a time, Zix. One planet at a time." Their mission took them to worlds Jack had only dreamed of. On the crystal plains of Lumina Prime, they stood before the radiant conclave, pleading their case as the very ground beneath them sang with ancient power. In the methane swamps of Vrax, they battled through ritual combat to earn the right to address the Acid Queens. Each world, each species, presented new challenges and opportunities. But everywhere they went, they faced skepticism and fear. The idea of a threat so vast, so incomprehensible, was met with denial or outright hostility. More than once, they barely escaped with their lives. It was on Earth, of all places, that Jack faced his greatest challenge. Standing before the United Nations, he felt the weight of his own species' doubts pressing down on him. "Mr. Harper," a stern-faced diplomat began, "you're asking us to commit vast resources to a threat we can't see or understand, based on the word of alien races many of our people still struggle to accept. How can we justify this to our citizens?" Jack took a deep breath, looking out over the sea of faces. He thought of all he had seen, all he had learned since leaving Earth. In that moment, he understood why the precursors had chosen their team, why this task had fallen to them. "Distinguished representatives," he began, his voice steady. "I stand before you not just as a member of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, but as a human being. When I left Earth, I thought I was venturing into a vast, unknowable cosmos. What I found instead was a galaxy of beings not so different from ourselves, beings with hopes, fears, dreams, and the capacity for both great good and terrible evil." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The threat we face is real. I've seen it with my own eyes, but I've also seen the incredible things we can achieve when we work together. Human ingenuity, Vraxian tenacity, Lumini insight. Each species brings something unique to the table. Together, we are far greater than the sum of our parts." Jack's voice rose with passion. "This is our moment, not just as humans, but as citizens of a galaxy teeming with life. We have a chance to stand against the darkness, to protect not just our world, but countless others. Will we let fear and mistrust doom us all? Or will we reach out to our galactic neighbors and show the universe what humanity is truly capable of?" As he finished speaking, the chamber was silent. Then, slowly, applause began to build. It started with a few scattered claps, then grew into a thunderous roar. In the days that followed, Earth threw its full support behind the Galactic Alliance. The tide began to turn. World after world, system after system joined the cause. Resources poured in as construction began on the dimensional seal, the massive device that would be their only hope against the encroaching darkness. But even as they made progress, reports came in of worlds going dark at the edge of known space. The enemy was no longer content to lurk in the shadows. It was making its move. As the first tendrils of darkness began to creep into their reality, Jack and his team found themselves on the front lines once more. They raced from hotspot to hotspot, evacuating civilians and gathering data on the entity's manifestations. It was during one such mission, on a remote outpost in the Andromeda Arm, that Jack had his revelation. They were pinned down, fighting a desperate rear-guard action as the last transports lifted off. The darkness had taken physical form here, writhing tentacles of void that consumed everything they touched. Jack watched in horror as a tendril engulfed a fleeing civilian, the poor soul's scream cut off as they simply ceased to exist. "Fall back," he shouted, laying down covering fire with a weapon that seemed pitifully inadequate against such a foe. "Get to the ship." As they retreated, Jack's mind raced. There had to be a pattern, a weakness they could exploit. He thought back to everything they had learned, every scrap of precursor knowledge they had deciphered. And then, like a bolt of lightning, it hit him. "Zix," he called out. "Remember what the Guardian said about ascending?" The Vraxian looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Kind of busy trying not to get unmade here, soft skin." "No, listen," Jack insisted, ducking under a swipe from a dark tendril. "The precursors didn't just give us a weapon. They gave us a blueprint. The key isn't just sealing the breach, it's evolving beyond it." Understanding dawned in Zix's alien eyes. "You mean?" Jack nodded, a wild grin spreading across his face despite the dire situation. "We need to ascend, not as individuals, but as a galaxy, unite not just our technology and resources, but our very consciousness." As they piled into their ship, barely escaping the doomed outpost, Jack's mind whirled with possibilities. It was audacious, perhaps even insane, but it was their only hope. "Set course for headquarters," he ordered, "and get me a direct line to Commander Zilvax. We need to call an emergency session of the Galactic Council." As the stars streaked by outside, Jack knew that the true battle was just beginning. They had the key to survival, but convincing an entire galaxy to take an evolutionary leap into the unknown would be his greatest challenge yet. The darkness was coming, but for the first time since this crisis began, Jack felt a glimmer of real hope. Humanity had always excelled at doing the impossible. Now they would need to teach that skill to the entire galaxy. The triumph. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension as representatives from every known spacefaring race gathered. The massive holographic display at the center of the room showed the encroaching darkness, now visible to even the most primitive of sensors. Tendrils of void crept across star systems, leaving only emptiness in their wake. Jack stood before this august assembly, acutely aware of the weight of countless billions of lives resting on his next words. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Distinguished representatives of the galaxy," he began, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We stand at the precipice of oblivion. The enemy we face is beyond anything our civilizations have ever encountered. It consumes not just matter and energy, but the very fabric of reality itself." Murmurs of fear and disbelief rippled through the crowd. Jack pressed on. "But we are not without hope. The precursors left us more than just a weapon. They left us a roadmap to our own evolution. The dimensional seal is not just a device. It's a catalyst for something far greater." He gestured to the holographic display, which now showed a complex network of energy patterns. "What you see before you is the culmination of our combined research, a way to link not just our technology, but our very consciousness, to ascend, as the precursors did, and face this threat on its own level." The chamber erupted into chaos. Shouts of disbelief, anger, and fear echoed off the walls. A Tauran representative bellowed over the din. "You expect us to surrender our individuality, our very essence. This is madness." "Not surrender," Jack countered. "Evolve. Unite. Become something greater than the sum of our parts." Zix stepped forward, mandibles clicking nervously. "Think about it. Every major breakthrough in galactic history has come from cooperation, the fusion of different perspectives, different ways of thinking. This is just the next step." Crystal's crystalline form shimmered as she added her voice. "We're not losing ourselves. We're gaining an entire galaxy of experiences, of knowledge." Slowly, the tumult began to subside as the implications sank in. The Lumini Elder floated forward, her voice chiming like crystal. "The young human speaks wisdom beyond his years. We have long suspected that true enlightenment lay in unity. Perhaps this crisis is also an opportunity." For hours, the debate raged. Jack and his team answered questions, allayed fears, and painted a vision of a united galaxy standing strong against the encroaching void. Slowly, painfully, a consensus began to form. As the final votes were tallied, Commander Zilvax approached Jack, all four eyes gleaming with a mix of pride and apprehension. "It seems your crazy plan might just work, Harper. But the real challenge is still ahead. We have weeks, at most, before the darkness reaches the core worlds. Can we really pull this off in time?" Jack nodded grimly. "We have to. There's no other choice." What followed was a flurry of activity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Vast fleets converged on the chosen site, a stellar nursery at the heart of the Milky Way. Engineers from 1,000 worlds worked tirelessly, integrating technologies in ways never before imagined. At the center of it all stood the dimensional seal, a construct that defied conventional physics. Part machine, part energy, part something utterly beyond current understanding. As the final pieces fell into place, Jack couldn't help but marvel at what they had achieved. Every ship, every being in the assembled fleet was connected, forming a vast neural network that spanned the galaxy. But even as they prepared for their great leap, the darkness pressed in. Entire star systems winked out of existence. The void tendrils probed ever closer to their position. "This is it," Jack said, standing on the bridge of the flagship. Around him, his team, Zix, Crystal, Gruck, and Vexler, manned their stations. Each of them had come so far from the prejudices and mistrust that had once divided them. "Send the signal. It's time." Across the galaxy, billions of beings braced themselves. In countless temples, churches, and sacred groves, prayers were offered to 1,000 different deities. In laboratories and observatories, scientists made final adjustments and recorded their observations for whatever future might await them. On Earth, Jack's family huddled around a view screen, watching the unprecedented event unfold. His mother clutched a photograph of her son, taken before he left for the stars. "Come back to us," she whispered. As the countdown reached 0, Jack closed his eyes. He felt the hum of the dimensional seal, the energy coursing through the vast network they had created. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a flash that outshone supernovas, it began. Jack's consciousness exploded outward, merging with those of his teammates, then with the crew, then with the entire assembled fleet. He was everywhere and everywhen, experiencing the totality of galactic life in an instant. He saw the birth of stars and the death of worlds. He felt the hopes and fears of countless beings across time and space. He understood, in that eternal moment, the true nature of the cosmos, a vast, interconnected web of energy and consciousness. And he saw the enemy for what it truly was, not a mindless force of destruction, but a wounded thing, lashing out in pain and fear, a fragment of a long-dead universe, seeking to rebuild itself by consuming others. With this understanding came power. The united consciousness of the galaxy reached out, not with weapons, but with compassion. They enveloped the darkness, soothing its pain, offering it a place within their new, greater whole. For a moment that stretched into infinity, the outcome hung in the balance. Then, slowly, the tendrils of void began to recede. The darkness, for so long a force of destruction, began to integrate into the galactic consciousness, its vast knowledge and experience becoming a part of the whole. When Jack opened his eyes, he found himself back on the bridge of the flagship. But everything had changed. He could feel the thoughts and emotions of every being in the fleet in the galaxy. And yet he was still himself, his individuality preserved within the greater whole. "Did it work?" Zix asked, his voice filled with awe. "Are we?" Ascended, crystal finish, her crystalline form pulsing with newfound energy. "We did it. We actually did it." Cheers erupted across the fleet, across planets, across the entire galaxy. They had faced the ultimate threat and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. In the days and weeks that followed, the true magnitude of what they had achieved began to sink in. The galaxy was united as never before, able to share knowledge and resources instantaneously across vast distances. Problems that had plagued individual species for eons were solved through the combined insight of trillions of minds. Yet this new state of being came with its own challenges. They had to learn to balance their newfound unity with the diversity that had always been the galaxy's greatest strength. It was a process of discovery, of growth, of becoming something entirely new while honoring what they had been. One solar year after the ascension, Jack found himself back on Earth. He stood on a hilltop, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues. His family surrounded him, tears of joy and wonder in their eyes as they embraced not just their son, but the galactic consciousness he now represented. "I'm proud of you, Jack," his father said, his voice choked with emotion. "You've changed. Well, everything." Jack smiled, feeling the pulse of countless stars, the thoughts of innumerable beings flowing through him. "We all did, Dad. Every single being in the galaxy played a part. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our physiology. It was our ability to adapt, to bring people together, to face the impossible and find a way through." As night fell and the stars came out, Jack looked up at the twinkling lights with new eyes. Each point of light represented not just a distant sun, but a part of their new, greater self. The galaxy was alive in a way it had never been before, filled with potential and promise. The threat of the darkness had been neutralized, but Jack knew their journey was far from over. There were other galaxies out there, other dimensions to explore, and someday they might face new challenges that would test their newfound unity. But whatever the future held, they would face it together, human and alien, flesh and energy, individual and collective. They were now one, yet many, a symphony of life and consciousness echoing across the cosmos. As he stood there, surrounded by family both old and new, Jack Harper, once a rookie human in a vast alien galaxy, now a bridge between worlds, felt a profound sense of peace. They had not just saved the galaxy. They had given it a new purpose, a new destiny. The stars beckoned, brighter than ever before. And the ascended galaxy, born from crisis and forged in unity, prepared to take its first steps into a vast and wondrous future.